Hello, how is everybody? Hope you're doing fine. I just wanted to share my kind of weekly topic with you. And this week I'm looking at, when do you call yourself a runner? When are you a real runner? I was interviewed recently and I was asked the question, when did you start calling yourself a runner? And I realised that this was something that I really struggled with, because it took me a very long time before I actually would say that I was a runner. And when I speak to people now, I so often hear exactly the same things that I was thinking. People say, well, I run, but I'm not a real runner, I'm really slow. Or, well, I like running a bit, but I don't call myself a runner because I don't really think I am. I think it's a really interesting topic, and one that we can get quite hung up about, really. So I decided to write a blog, which I've got sat here in front of me, and I wanted to share it with you, really, just to see what your thoughts were, and I'd love your opinions on it as well. So I think one of the reasons I didn't want to call myself a runner is because I had kind of made up these qualifications to be a runner in my head, and I think that's where a lot of this has come from. And I've just to say, I want to know whether you feel the same. In my mind, runners looked like runners. Now, my first exposure to running was watching the marathon, the London Marathon in the 1980s on the television. That was the first time I kind of ever saw runners, and had this image that they were lean, that they were speedy, and that they were wearing very short shorts. So that in my mind was what a runner looked like, and I think that impression never changed. And then we had a 10k race in the village, and the club runners were lining up in their very short shorts, looking lean and speedy. So, I never considered myself as a runner. This was completely what I didn't look like in my baggy tracksuit trousers and t-shirt with my cellulite wobbling around. So I was very far off being a runner, and I never really thought I would become a runner. I'm gonna have to stop using these quote marks. So that was my first thing, really. The second one was that, in my eyes, real runners raced. I was taking these little jaunts around the countryside and didn't really think that would qualify me as a runner. I wasn't racing. And even once I'd done that village 10k, which was a hard and hilly route, I thought I would feel like a runner, but I didn't. I just was the woman that came second to last in a 10k once. So I went on and I did a half marathon and a marathon, and you would think, wouldn't you, after running a marathon, that I would feel like a runner. But I didn't, because I was saying, well, it was just a charity place. I didn't go very quickly. I walked a bit. I didn't finish up the front with everybody else. I was so slow, all those kind of things that actually, I just ran a marathon, but I still wasn't calling myself a runner. In my eyes, you needed to be racing to be a runner. The other one that I kind of made up in my mind was that real runners love running. And I didn't love running. Sometimes I loved it. Most of the time I thought it was okay. Some of the time I really hated it. I would find it very hard to get out from under my warm duvet out into the freezing air, or I would see the rain hitting the window horizontally and think, nah, I'm not going. So, in my mind, a real runner just would have embraced it, would have looked for every opportunity to go, would have gone and loved it. And because I didn't feel that, I felt like I wasn't a real runner. My fourth point really, is that real runners speak running. This was a whole new language of running. I didn't know what a tempo run was. I didn't know what VO2 max was. Somebody talked about negative splits. These things didn't mean anything to me. And I guess I thought, until I really understand and know how to use all these words and what they all mean, then I'm not a real runner. So, I wasn't deciding how to replace my glycogen stores when I got home, or looking at the best recovery foods, or working out how I could get faster going uphill, etc, etc. So in my mind, I wasn't a real runner. So these kind of four things, the looking like a runner, not racing, not always loving running, and not speaking the running language, were enough in my mind to mean that I wasn't a real runner. And I don't really know when it happened, but I do remember having an almost epiphany. And I remember being in the shower one day after I'd had a run, this was years after I started running, and realising that I was a runner. And I can't fully explain what it was at that moment that made me feel that. I remember thinking that my body had changed, but it wasn't the physical change, it was more the mental change. It was like a switch had gone in my brain that allowed me to call myself a runner. I actually started to believe in myself. I got so much confidence from running. I really realised that it had become part of my identity. And it's interesting because the people around me called me a runner a long time before I called myself one. They would say, oh, there's Juliet, she's a runner. I would get Christmas presents, birthday presents, running related things. So people around me were quite comfortable to call me a runner, but I just wasn't comfortable myself. And I think it was the fact that I'd discovered what running could give me, and I'd almost developed like a relationship with running, if you like. Sometimes it was a great one, sometimes it was a bit of a troubled or wobbly one, but I knew that running could help me feel better about myself, but it could actually make my life more fun, easier, and I was more able to cope with things. And I think it was actually discovering this relationship with running that actually enabled me to call myself a runner. I realised that I had this secret weapon, something that I could use, this sort of unspoken power that running could help me in whatever I did, not just in running, but in life as well. And I think that for me was the key. It was this kind of deep sense of knowing that I had experienced something, and I would run past another runner and give them a little nod and a wave, and just felt like I belonged, felt like I knew what they were going through, they knew what I was going through, and I was a runner. And it was something that took a long time, and it was very, very gradual. But I realised, it wasn't about how I looked, it wasn't about how fast I was going. I didn't have to earn it. I didn't have to earn anything or prove anything to myself or anybody else to be able to call myself a runner. This was very much more about something that was inside of me and how I felt about it. And I realised that running was something that I didn't want to be without. So I would say, as I say, it wasn't just the running itself, the ability to put one foot in front of the other. It was actually what running was doing in other areas of my life that changed my thinking and enabled me to take on the identity of a runner. And I realised I was a runner at that point, and I am proud to say that I am a runner now, but I know that so many other people find it so difficult to say that. So I really wanted to sort of share this as a starting point for conversation, really. Do you feel like a runner? Do you call yourself a runner? If not, why not? What's holding you back from calling yourself a runner? Do you want to be a runner? Do you not want to be a runner? I think it's a really interesting topic, and I really, really would love to hear your thoughts on it. And please do share them in the comments below. You can read this in written form with all the bits that I've missed out. I've had a quick look at my notes, but on my blog, drjulietmcgrattan.com, if you want to read about it, and you can add comments on there as well. Do follow the blog, because then you'll get these updates every time I post something straight into your email account. Otherwise, leave me a comment on here. I would really love to know what you think about this topic. Thank you, everybody. I'm a runner.